long before I kind of took my hiatus from the Battlefield series for almost, I think it was like 8 years, mostly just because I didn't like the direction the gameplay felt. I didn't really care about anything outside the terms with the studio or the politics. That's irrelevant to me entirely. For me, it was mostly I just didn't like the gameplay direction it was heading. That's another side story if anyone else is interested in that some other time. But one of the questions I'd always receive all the time in the sniping tutorials was, like, what is your thought process as the game is playing? How do you know where to go, where to position yourself? How do you make those mid-match adjustments as you go? And I feel this was a pretty good gameplay. This one was 50-3. Of course, it was more like 50-8 or something like that, but I was revived a few times. And I felt this was a good way that I could kind of diagnose it for you and how I typically like to play as I go. Normally, some people would ask about a live commentary, but I find I'm not a talker when I play. I'm not that type. I like zoning in. I like paying attention. I don't really talk as I play either, so I wouldn't really be of any use to anyone. Or if I force it, I find I don't play as well. And I even turn off the chat because I find a lot of the time any good information that might come from the chat is usually drowned out by a whole bunch of people just yelling at each other. Pretty much entirely irrelevant to me. So in this gameplay, what you'll see is I like kind of that hybrid style I described in my sniping tutorial. I don't like hanging back and sitting in one spot, being a sitting duck. Not only are you not really contributing, you're not really going to get many kills, you're not really going to get many points, but you don't want to be a front line guy a lot of the time in this game because it's a fast time to kill against you. There's explosives all over the place when you're playing in Breakout especially, which is my favorite mode for sniping. And I think the best way is kind of that hybrid zone. You kind of read the ebb and flow of the match and where areas don't really have a lot of hot targets, areas where you can kind of flank the enemies. Set up shop there, be aware, and use your gadgets to determine if anyone's going to be trying to flank you, and then try to go for kills. I don't particularly like just going to try and snipe other snipers. Yeah, taking them out, of course, is going to help, but my priority one is usually looking for people near objectives or looking for gun placements. Those guys with LMGs do a good job suppressing and preventing your team from really pushing up, so taking care of them helps a ton. And what I typically like to do too is take full advantage of the drone. I think that's Recon's most powerful tool. I've said this in a couple of videos now. I think it's so good. It helps you determine where you should be setting up. It helps you determine, well, it lets the entire your team know where the enemy is, where they're setting up, where they're positioning, where their equipment are for when the tank tries to push up. Knowledge is power, right? So, and that Recon basically is, that drone is going to be giving you everything you need, at least in that short time frame. If a teammate has one up too after yours ends, then you have a continuous supply of them. If not, then you can wait for yours to replenish or get a support team member to give you a replenish of your own before you push up. But you don't want to be too close either. Like in this, like in the gameplay here, you kind of see I'm in this middle ground, the purgatory zone, where people shooting at me downrange might be able to hit me or suppress me, but it's going to be tough to outright kill me. But at the same time, I want to be using those gadgets to give myself and my team, well, recon, to make better decisions going forward. And my favorite time to use the drone is basically, as you're seeing here, it's usually right after we take objectives. Because at that point, everything's scattered. Your teammate's making a huge push. They're not really sure what's coming up, so any information is going to help them. And you can basically set up and see what the enemy team is trying to do. Sometimes they're very heavily weighted on one side versus completely empty on the other. Your teammate seeing all those spotting dots on one objective means they can push for the other. So it's kind of real time, but it's also an adjustment as you go because, of course, not every match is static. It will change. The smarter teams are the ones, and the ones that are going to win the most are the ones that can adapt to ever-changing circumstance. But having that knowledge is going to help. These guys here I was able to take out on the hill because not all of them were counter snipers. Some of them were engineers trying to shoot at our tank. Getting rid of them allowed our tank to advance a bit. Though I do find it's, especially in Breakout against a team full of engineers, it's quite tough to actually get a push going forward because there's just so many ways to take out a tank. There's the one bug I've seen where you can laser designate, and as long as you shoot it into the air and hits the tank from above, it kills. What a mess. Anyway, that's kind of... You can see it in the back. I'm trying to get the guys that are the engineers and the support gun placements. They're priority 1. Snipers are usually priority 2 unless they're staring directly at me, because you have to take them out. Otherwise, they're going to completely suppress or kill you. But they're not usually my priority 1. And you can see in this particular case here, I've moved up closer to the objective, and I've put down the tugs and the motion detector. And if you put it close enough to the objective and the zone, not only do you get so many points for it, but it's incredibly helpful for you and the team. Once again, I'm going to emphasize this over and over and over again, because if you want to win matches, that's the way to do it. Although, ironically, I think we end up losing this one just at the last minute. But it wasn't for anyone's particular fault. It was a valiant effort. It came down to the last couple of tickets. But this is using this strategy is why I win a good portion of the matches I do, regardless of the class that I take. It's just that because I'm using a sniper rifle, I kind of have to tailor the recommendations to the class. The sidearm I'm using here is one of my ultimate favorites. I just unlocked it too. This one allows you to 2 or 3 tap people to kill them versus the other pistols that were useless. And once you get a ton of kills using this class too, you unlock the UAV as part of the Recon training path, which is nice. So I already have it unlocked on me, and of course I get killed while I'm using it. That was not what I was expecting. But once you have that unlocked and you're able to use the drone, not only are you pouring in points, but you're basically a walking surveillance system. Using the tugs and those two while they're down, you can see everything. But in this mid-range zone is, again, I'm going to emphasize, I think I've repeated myself, but this mid-range zone here is where I kind of like to emphasize that 50 to 100 to maybe 150 meter range. Because that way I'm able to continuously push flanks, highlight enemies, and I'm able to find out where they are and what, like this way, I'm using the drone here not only to help the team, but to also spot where they are. I can see the 2 snipers in the back. I can see a bunch of them pushing the front here. We end up taking the sector right after I get out of the drone, but I knew the stragglers were going to be on this roadway. And I know that if I take the left flank here, which I do, not only am I going to have cover, but there was no one on, well, besides him that I just killed, there's no one there basically to disrupt me at all. Like, I go on a nice little tear here because they're focused down on the objectives. They're trying to focus at the objectives, and I'm basically on their flanks looking to the sides. So they're not even looking to see that I'm here, and I'm able to quickly take a few of them down before. The other thing I also like to take advantage of is, and it can be risky at times because sometimes the engineers will be targeting the vehicles, but sometimes if you're with a well-protected vehicle on infantry like this, they'll be so busy looking at the tank that they won't see you, and then you're able to just quickly get rid of them real quick. And that's kind of the way I do it. Some matches give you a better overall vantage point in that sort of 50 to 100 meter range. This isn't so much one of them once you get to this part, because they have the advantage having the high ground, and a lot of people are doing smokes and explosives, which kind of cuts off your viewpoints. So at this point here, I played this map quite a bit, and I feel, especially if I'm the attackers, I haven't had the most spectacular killing matches at this point. Early on, the first 2 MCOMs are by far the best time to get the most kills. This part here is where I'd either swap to another class, or I would focus exclusively on trying to be the one to highlight everything for the team. This is the part I probably actually should have used the drone more at, especially because we just took this sector. Though the drone does come up shortly, and that's a big key to it. The other part you have to keep in mind is I got a bit lucky in that these guys weren't really paying too much attention for me. But because of the elevation change, I was basically a sitting duck for a lot of these snipers. So this isn't something I would highly recommend standing in kind of the open like this, because upper waist and up with the concrete barricade, I was basically kind of using these crates as some sort of cover, but it wasn't the best. But I get this was kind of an unscripted commentary the way I was doing it, but in general, that is kind of the way I look to do things on here. It's to continuously use my gadget, I use the drone as much as I can, not only for the points and the spotting assists, but it also gives you an ebb and flow, and where there's, like you can see here, they're mostly setting up on the front lines. There's some snipers on the right side, which are kind of a waste and a decoy of your time to try to kill. These guys here are the ones where you understand that the guys overlooking you are going to be the targets, but not all of them are going to be overlooking, so you might not get too many kills here. So this is why I move up toward the end and put it down. But I do emphasize for the third or fourth time, the mid-range is going to get you with so many more kills than sitting back. That's why I prefer the push here. Though it does take a bit more skill, and you absolutely have to know exactly and be more measured on when you move up and when you have cover, because you are going to be outgunned, and if you aren't ready for it, that'll be it for you. And this, I like putting up the MCOMs close to objectives to tell me where everyone is here. And that's that. I will do more of these style if you want, and if you have more questions, please include them in the comments. Have a good day.